Good morning and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Minneapolis City Council. My name is Barbara Johnson, Minneapolis City Council President, and we have several recognitions that we would like to do this morning. We take time at the beginning of our council meeting over time to recognize efforts that are going on in the community, recognize people who have significantly contributed to our way of life in Minneapolis. And this morning we have three things that we would like to acknowledge. And the first is, recognizing World Down Syndrome Day. And I'm going to be joined by Leslie Cellini. Is she here? Why don't you come on up? One of the things we do also in the city of Minneapolis, after the 35W bridge was rebuilt, we have the ability through state legislation to acknowledge groups who would like to have their efforts recognized, but it requires a resolution of the Minneapolis City Council. And so we are happy to accommodate those requests, and people frequently ask for particular colors that their organization is choosing as their logo significant recognition of their organization. So welcome, and I'm going to read the city's resolution. So we'll be acting this morning under our agenda under resolutions recognizing World Down Syndrome Day. And it says, whereas Down syndrome is a congenital disorder caused by having an extra 21st chromosome, and whereas the date for World Down Syndrome Day is being the 21st day of the third month, and it was selected to signify the uniqueness of the triplication trisomy of the 21st chromosome, which causes Down syndrome. And whereas 1 in every 691 babies in the United States is born with Down syndrome, making Down syndrome the most common genetic condition. And whereas approximately 400,000 Americans have Down syndrome and about 6,000 babies with Down syndrome are born in the United States every year. And whereas while research and early intervention have resulted in dramatic improvements in the lifespan and potential of those who are affected, more research is needed into diseases and illnesses that are more prevalent among people who have Down syndrome. And whereas while possessing a wide range of abilities, people with Down syndrome are active participants in educational, occupational, social, and recreational circles of our community. And whereas individuals with Down syndrome should have equal opportunity to achieve their desired goals of self-fulfillment, be valued for their achievements, be included in the community, and encouraged to reach their full potential. And whereas one of the victims of the 35W bridge collapse on August 1st, 2007, Richard Schitt, had the attribute of Down syndrome. And whereas each year on March 21st, buildings and bridges, including the Empire State Building in New York City, are lit in blue and yellow. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Minneapolis that the City Council declares the 21st day of March 2015 to be Down Syndrome Day, Awareness Day in the City of Minneapolis, and that the 35W bridge be lit in blue and yellow on this day. And I just want to mention I have my neighbor 2 doors down from me has Down syndrome, and we as a neighborhood try and support the family, and we've had challenges. He actually got away from us one time, and it was a very scary experience. So I appreciate that you've done this, and like to have you just say a few words.
Oh, first of all, this is my son, Sean. He's 14 years old, and he is as I call him, my Sean Shine. He's the joy of my life. And I just want to say thank you to the City of Minneapolis and the council members for recognizing this day. It's such an important day in our Down syndrome community. Just if we can, work on the acceptance and the inclusion of these individuals, they can go so far in life. And we've got some that are doctors, and we've got some that are attorneys, and we've got lots of wonderful attributes to celebrate. So I just want to say thank you very, very much, and for working with me on this.
Thank you. There you go. Next, I'm going to ask Councilmember Lisa Bender to join me for recognition of biking. Oh, there she's coming the other way.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we're doing a resolution to honor 30 days of biking, which is an exciting month in Minneapolis. If anyone else wants to come up who will be participating in 30 days of biking, please come on up. So I'll just go right into the resolution. Designating April 15th, 2015 as 30 Days of Biking Month in Minneapolis. Whereas 30 Days of Biking was founded in Minneapolis in 2010, and whereas 30 Days of Biking works to promote individuals to bicycle, share their stories, and change the way bicycling is seen in the city. And whereas cyclists from all over Minneapolis signed the pledge to ride for 30 days in the month of April. And whereas in 5 years, 30 Days of Biking has grown from 30 pledges in 2010 to over 7,000 in 2014, with a goal in 2015 of 15,000 pledges. And whereas 30 Days of Biking has spread across the globe to over 100 countries, with a chapter based in Spain advocating to all Spanish-speaking communities named 30 Días en Bici, which attracts more than 4,000 riders. And whereas 30 Days of Biking works to make bicycling accessible to all people and contributes to Minneapolis' reputation as a national and maybe even international leader in bicycling. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council in the City of Minneapolis, on behalf of the people of Minneapolis, declares April 15th to be 30 Days of Biking Month in Minneapolis. And we will be lighting the 35W Bridge on April 1st and the Lowry Bridge on April 30th in honor of this month. So I wanted to turn this over to Patrick, who founded this international event, to say a few words. Tell us how to sign up.
Hi. This is really intense. Okay, let me get my mind together. So I'm Patrick. I'm the director and founder of 30 Days of Biking, which is a pledge to ride your bike every day in April and share your adventures online. For every 30 pledges, we're also donating one bike to Free Bikes for Kids so that we pass bikes forward. Last year, that resulted in 250 donations. This year, I hope it's going to result in 500. We'll see. It depends on how many pledges we get. Basically, I just want to say thank you. I love bicycling in Minneapolis. I love bicycling on the Greenway, Cedar Lake Trail, Martin Olav Sabo Bridge. Biking here changed my life. It transformed my body. I lost weight. It made me who I am today. I met my wife because of biking in Minneapolis. So, yeah. And then I think, I'm very nervous. Whew. Okay. Also, I want to thank, 30 Days of Biking would not exist without Minneapolis, because not only because of the bicycling infrastructure, but because people here are so generous with their time and their creativity, and it's really meaningful that people will step up and help you put together a project like this. It's amazing. This is a great place to live. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next, I'm going to be joined by Councilmember Landercano, and we have a resolution supporting and celebrating Mexican New Year.
Buenos dias. Good morning, everybody. I'll have our Mexica community please come up here and stand next to me so we can fully recognize you, and we're honored that you're all here today, so thank you so much for being here. So yeah, you can just come up here, and you can also stand to this side. So this is a very important cultural event for our community, and I'm very happy to honor you here today. And we'll read the resolution, and then we'll open it up for a comment or two from the community. So this is in regards to a resolution that the City Council will pass today, honoring Indigenous Mexican community and proclaiming the Mexica New Year, Yay Acat Day in Minneapolis. Whereas in this Gregorian year of 2015, the indigenous Mexican peoples will end the year Ometochtli and begin the year Yay Acat, and the Mexica New Year occurred on March 12th, 2015 at approximately 12:45 p.m. And indigenous Mexican peoples have pre-colonial and contemporary relationships with Native American and other indigenous peoples of the city of Minneapolis that are based on mutual respect, the sharing of traditions, and the practice of preserving a sustainable Mother Earth for future generations. And indigenous Mexican peoples have advanced indigenous rights, including the dignity to revitalize, use, develop, and transmit to future generations their elders and ancestral teachings, histories, languages, oral traditions, philosophies, arts, writing systems, and literatures. Whereas Indigenous Mexican peoples and other Indigenous peoples in Minneapolis and St. Paul practice their cultural traditions and customs while maintaining, protecting, and developing past, present, and future manifestations of Indigenous cultures, ceremonies, technologies, visual and performing arts and literature. And whereas Indigenous Mexican youth and other Indigenous dreamers exhibit an eminent pride in their heritage, a passionate love of family and community, and a profound devotion to education through their Indigenous Masewal teachings of respect, service, gratitude, and integrity, contributing to scholarship in science, medicine, arts, history, literature, and participatory democracy to ensure the well-being, enjoyment, and safety of our diverse communities and to create harmony in our great city. Whereas Kalpuli Yausenochtli provides lifelong learning opportunities based on traditional Mexica Nahua teachings and culture, complementing the rich diversity of the city of Minneapolis, and dedicates their work to advance harmony within other Mexica, Azteca, Calpulis, and groups and Indigenous peoples by celebrating and honoring the observance of Mexica New Year, Yay Akat Day in Minneapolis. And whereas Kalpuli Yausenochtli and the broader Indigenous Mexican community in Minneapolis are inviting their friends and allies to gather at the East Phillips Cultural and Community Center to celebrate Yay Akat with a family-focused celebration featuring cultural art, music, performances, and a community feast on Sunday, March 22nd, 2015 at 11 a.m. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the mayor and the city council of the city of Minneapolis that March 12th, 2015 is recognized as Mexica New Year in the city of Minneapolis. Be it further resolved that the mayor and the city council of the city of Minneapolis recognize and celebrate the richness and diversity of the Indigenous Mexican community and urge the community to join the celebration of Mexica New Year at the East Phillips Cultural and Community Center. So what we'll do is we'll have you take the formal resolution from her. Is that one of the formal ones? Yes. Okay, wonderful. So, and then if you want to just address the community a little bit, this is the council president. This is one of the leaders of the girls to meet you.
So I would like to thank the city of Minneapolis. This is very important for our community. It is important for us to know that Minneapolis welcomes our community and recognizes the indigenous Latinos in the city. When the restaurant workers or the hotel workers, when that dreamer, that student sitting in class, and they start seeing these celebrations, and on top of that they see that it is being recognized by the city, by the leaders in the city of Minneapolis, then they feel pride, just as we feel pride that they are being accepted into this greater community, and we become a greater diversity, very important in our city of Minneapolis. I would also like to just pass the mic real quick to Lolita, another one of our members.
Omitakiopi, Tlasukumati na Pilamayaye. I'm a member of Kapuli Yausenochtli for 3 years. It was a commitment that I made when I married my husband, and I am learning about his culture now on the Mexican side of the family. I'm very proud to be a part of this Kalpuli, and as a Lakota, I welcome all Indigenous interaction and diversity and cultural learning experiences, as we are all Indigenous in these ways. Most of our teachings, most of the cultural, ancestral lessons are all pretty much the same. So it's just learning a different language now. Also, I'm very proud that this is a cultural, almost a repatriation with the students and the young Mexica children here in the United States. So that way it gives them an opportunity to learn more about their culture and be grounded in their ancestors. Thank you.
We also have someone from another other dancing community that I'd like for her to say something.
Thank you. Well, we're Mexica Yolot here in Minneapolis, which means Mexican heart. We're also a different group, another group here in Minneapolis who are very happy that the Mexica New Year is being recognized. I definitely agree with Kalpuli Yausenochtli getting the word out there for our youth to feel proud of the place they come from and the roots, and gets them involved to be doing a lot better here in the Twin Cities. So I'm very happy to be here, and I also would like to briefly introduce one of our elders who came from Mexico. We have our jefe, our chief from Mexico, that is here also. He traveled all the way from Mexico to see the progress of their teachings, that we're not just taking it for granted, but we're actually making, something out of it, and that it's the teachings that they pass on from generation to generation is having a really good positive impact in the cities.
Pues me da gusto venir con el grupo de aquí como invitado.
I'm very happy to be here invited by these groups.
Yo soy un jefe heredero de México de la tradición de danzas y mi danza tiene 114 años en mi familia.
I am one of the chiefs from Mexico. My family is a generation of 100 and some years, passed on generation to generation.
Y pues les agradezco el interés que tiene esta ciudad de Minneapolis para nuestros mexicas que están aquí en la ciudad. Muchas gracias.
And I thank you very much for giving the importance to our community of danzantes, of dancers in the Mexica tradition.
So I just wanted to say that it is known that Minneapolis and St. Paul have more danza mexica groups than Mexico City. I think that's a small joke, but the point is that we have a very robust community here. And as a young person, I was shaped and empowered by the danza mexica community, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here today. And I know that there's a lot of young people in the audience today that are participating in this, and I'm really happy to see you take this step and look forward to all the things that you will continue to do for our communities. This is really important because many years ago, our community's books were burned, our government systems were decimated, our knowledge and our information about the science and the sustainability that we had developed, building cities on top of rivers and growing food on the water, a lot of those things were lost. And so this work is really important because it's taking centuries to remember that and bring it forward. So thank you for your work.
I'm going to call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Minneapolis City Council to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Warsami.
Present.
Goodman.
Present.
Fry.
Here.
Palmisano.
Here.
Gordon.
Here.
Kano.
Here.
Reich.
Here.
Bender.
Here.
Glidden.
Here.
Yang.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Quincy.
Here.
President Johnson.
Here.
There are 13 members present.
We have all council members present this morning. Next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
So moved.
Seeing none. I'm sorry.
there a change?
Councilmember Quincy? Yes, Councilmember Quincy, you did have a change. Thank
Yeah,
you.
excuse me, Madam Chair, thank you. I would like to amend the agenda that's in front of us. It's item number 6 under the introduction and referral calendar. Just like to make item number 6 a motion by Quincy to introduce the subject matter rather than Bender. Second.
Okay, we have a motion to, under introduction and referral calendar, under number 6, to change the author of the introduction of the subject matter from Councilmember Bender to Councilmember Quincy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Then on the agenda as amended, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Next item is acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 27th, 2015.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Next, we have referral of petitions, communications, and reports of the city officers to proper committees and departments.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Next, we have the reports of the standing committees, and the first committee in that lineup is Committee of the Whole, and that committee is chaired by the Council Vice President Elizabeth Glidden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 2 items on the agenda today. The first is the assistant clerk appointment. The second is an update to the city stationery and graphics standards. And I'm going to move item 1, and I will hold item 2. As I understand, there is a motion that another council member may want to make, and I think we'll let that process play out.
Okay.
So,
Councilmember Glidden has moved item 1 on the Committee of the Whole agenda. Any discussion on item 1? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That motion is adopted. Next, we have item 2, and Councilmember Andrew Johnson to be recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Before us, we have the City Stationery and Graphics Standard, which is something that really every enterprise and organization puts forward is a set of graphic standards policies. I think it makes a ton of sense. It's all geared at improving the consistency of the graphics used throughout the organization. A lot of folks might know that, in fact, I actually come from Target Corporate. Brand was a huge thing there, and so we'd see all the time people use a logo in ways they weren't supposed to. They'd skew the logo or blow it up so big it was pixelated. There were all sorts of issues. People would use different fonts, and so this is really a great effort by staff to put together a set of standards around how you use and communicate out in a consistent manner. I only have one concern really with it, which is around specifically the icon in it, the symbol of switching out and rather updating what we've known for about 30 years now, the 2 sailboats to a single sailboat. I think personally, on a very personal note, I think that the new sailboat graphic I actually like better. I think it is an improvement upon the existing 2 sailboats. My concern really falls into that we have tens of thousands of physical objects across the city with this logo on them. It's everything from our vehicles and lanyards and access cards and signs and monument even. And I'm sure, well, we're not responsible for changing it. I'm sure there's even a couple tattoos out there. But so we're trying to be more consistent, and we're also have a plan before us that doesn't put any tax dollars behind updating all of these graphics that are out there to this new sailboat. And that's my big concern, is that we'll end up in a situation where a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades down the road, we're going to have 2 logos out there, which my understanding from a branding standpoint is probably not the best thing, which is why a lot of companies that update the graphics, update their logo, refresh their logo, evolve their logo, they put resources into actually rolling it out consistently across the organization. So I think let's get the best of both worlds. Let's get the consistency of the graphics standard policy, which is excellent work, and I really appreciate all the work the staff has done on this, and also the consistency of having a logo that people already recognize, that's already out there, that now has an even stronger set of standards behind it. So with that, I have a motion before us to move to send item number 2 back to committee of the whole so that staff can update the standards to incorporate the existing sailboat graphic.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I'd like to speak in opposition to this particular motion. I believe it sends us backwards. It's hard to take a wholesale change of standards and putting in the new practices and the new color palettes that has gone through such extensive work, research, background and development, its consistency with all the things that we've been doing at Meet Minneapolis as well as the convention center. I don't personally believe anybody's going to be confused by the fact that there's a sailboat on a regulatory services pool car in our fleet and not knowing which city of Minneapolis they're part of. I don't think there's any reason that we should spend fortunes of money to do a wholesale change and abandon everything that we've printed and everything that appears on a decal or on a logo type. I think this the effort that was put forward by staff and been accepted, and with the work of all of our departments, are looking forward to a change and an update that's dramatically needed. I think it brings us up to a 21st century standard that I think needs to be approved and moved forward today. And I think putting it back to committee of the whole just provides another opportunity for a logo to be redesigned with a pretty significant change that use the existing sailboats graphic. Although I love our existing sailboats, and I think everybody understands that, I think what was being brought forward by staff at our recommendation over the last several years really paid homage and heritage to our sailboat graphic, and I think that should continue to be updated, and that we should continue with what was presented with us before, after all the work that went into it with no money. We used existing staff and existing resources, and to be putting more money into this without it being fully considered into the future budgets is going to be too dramatic of a change that isn't necessary. So as I said, I'd speak in opposition to this particular motion, although I appreciate everybody's concern on it. I'd just like to move forward with has come from staff, been accepted by the mayor's office, went through the executive committee and the committee of the whole yesterday, and to be addressing it at this late moment, I don't think is a good step forward. So that's my comments. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilmember Cano is having trouble with her computer, and so she's next in line, and then you, Councilmember Gordon. Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess I'm inclined to vote for this motion, but I wonder if there could be a friendly amendment to, instead of incorporate the existing sailboats graphics, that we have just a deeper conversation about this process. In general, I don't support the sailboats as our city's image. I don't know that that represents my constituents or the people that live in my ward. I'm not sure who owns boats and access to boats and that kind of a thing. But I understand we have restraints, and I understand that we have a budget, and I understand that the staff are doing a lot of different things. I guess I would just be interested in having a heartier discussion about the questions that are being raised, and just really making sure that all council members are on board with that idea.
Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you. I will have to say that having the staff meet individually with all council members, having this reviewed by the executive committee, and having it go through committee of the whole gave me hope that we would not be debating it at length at the council meeting. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think we should spend much more time on this. I would be comfortable referring it back to committee if we don't have the consensus, but I would move that we strike the part that says so that staff can update the standards to incorporate the existing sailboat graphic, and just send it back to committee if we think that it needs more work and we're not ready. So if I could move that amendment without having the language before us, because it's just striking already written language, I would like to do so. Otherwise, I can try to get that written.
Councilmember Gordon has moved to strike the words so that staff can update the standards to incorporate the existing sailboats graphics. So that his motion then His amendment would give us language that says move to send item 2, stationery and graphic standards, back to committee of the whole. Is there a second on that? Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay. Let's have a roll call.
Councilmember Warsame.
I'm sorry, the motion is to move to send item 2 back to committee of the whole. So clerk, call the roll on the motion.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
No.
Fry.
No.
Palmisano.
No.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich. Bender. Glidden.
No.
Yang. Johnson.
No.
Quincy.
No.
President Johnson.
No.
There are 5 ayes and 8 noes.
That motion fails. So we have Councilmember Johnson's motion in front of us, which is move to send item 2 back to committee of the whole so that staff can update the standards to incorporate the existing sailboats graphic. Any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Fry, are you in line for that?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I generally do agree with Councilmember Johnson's sentiment about not having 2 different logos. What I don't want to do is spend undue time or money on this.
Okay. Any further discussion then on the motion to send item 2 back to committee of the whole so that staff can update the standards to incorporate the existing sailboats graphic? Seeing as we had a divided vote last, I think I'll ask clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
No.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
No.
President Johnson.
No.
There are 10 ayes and 3 nays.
That item is approved. With that, we have dispensed with the committee of the whole report, and the next item on our agenda then is the Community Development and Regulatory Services Report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilmember Fry chaired the committee during the cycle, so I've asked him
Yes.
to prepare the report for today.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman. Councilmember Fry is the vice chair of that committee.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 10 items that we will be moving forward today for approval. First is Green Check Unison Comfort Technologies authorizing a financing package of $80,000. Second is a slew of liquor and business licenses. Third is a passage of a resolution approving a license settlement conference. Fourth is a rental license reinstatement. Number 5 is authorizing a contract with Hennepin County Sentenced to Serve for grass and vegetation nuisance abatement. Number 6 is passage of a resolution giving final approval for an affordable housing project, the Cameron Building in North Loop, of up to $6.5 million in tax-exempt multi-family housing entitlement revenue bonds. 7, A, B, and C are land sales at 1508 25th Street East. Number 8 is passage of a resolution approving a business license for extended hours at Mesa Pizza at 921 Washington. Number 9 is Corcoran Triangle Project. It's a proposal to determine if tax increment financing assistance in the amount not to exceed $1.5 million. And number 10 is a staff direction related to Homegrown Minneapolis Food Council, directing staff to allow for or look at all of the parcels in the city that are presently vacant. Happy to answer any questions, and I move approval of all of those items.
Councilmember Fry has moved the Community Development and Regulatory Services Report. Any concerns or want to pull anything off? Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to make 2 comments on item number 1 and item number 10, but I do not want to pull them off.
Okay, let's. Why don't you go ahead then on items 1 and 10?
For item number 1, this is a company that annual revenues top over $125 million, and this is wonderful that they're doing what they're doing. I would encourage them to continue to hire from the north side and up the totals. With regards to this agreement, they've agreed to hire about 15 folks from the north side. It would be nice to see them do a lot more than that. And, this is a great program. Hopefully we can get more folks to qualify for this program and to use this program to help in terms of building their businesses up on the north side. For item number 10, in Ward 5 alone, we have 141 empty lots that the city owns, and every lot costs us about $3,600 to maintain, which means that, from let's say April 1st onward to July 31st, every single month, it's costing us $42,000 in maintenance to make that decision or to slowly get to that deadline to decide what to do. And, once July 31st hits, I would say the growing season almost ends at that point, and, it's harvest time. So I would encourage the folks at CPED to, work faster and also just work in a way in which, we can try to open up more lots for community gardens or for gardens for folks to, sell their foods. And, in this situation, I think what is happening is that for the cost of maintenance, we are basically per year spending more on the cost of maintenance than the cost of the value of the plot of land. And if we can fix that and if we can do things differently, that would be wonderful. The Star Tribune just had an article today with regards to a lot of vacant and boarded homes and also empty lots. And I understand the need for us to have that flexibility in terms of developing on these developable lots, but we have mechanisms in place that will allow us to get onto those lots quickly if we have a development opportunity. And in the interim, if we can save ourselves money, that would be wonderful. In Ward 5 alone, with 141 empty lots, we spend upwards of a little bit over $500,000 every year on maintenance. And in other parts, it's the same thing. And so, it would be nice to see us move fast and move differently in terms of how to address this issue. And also, the most important part for our taxpayers is for us to save money. So thank you, and I wholeheartedly support this item.
Any further discussion on the Community Development and Regulatory Services report? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright is absent. Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee is bringing forward 4 items for approval today. The first is approving the City Council appointment of Jan Auger for a 2-year term to fill the Hennepin County Human Services and Public Health seat on our Minneapolis Public Health Advisory Committee. The second is passage of a resolution committing the city to continue divestment from fossil fuel companies and calling on our partners to divest as well. The third is authorizing execution of a contract with the Minnesota Department of Health to accept estimated revenue almost $3 million to implement community and clinic-based strategies to prevent obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. And the fourth item is authorizing execution of a contract with the Minnesota Department of Health to accept an estimated revenue of almost $750,000 for home visiting services for women and young children. And I will move all 4 items forward for approval.
Councilmember Gordon has moved the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement report. Anyone want to discuss any of those items? Councilmember Goodman?
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question on item number 2, so perhaps item number 2 could be pulled.
Okay, let's take item 2 off. Anything on items 1, 3, and 4? Seeing none, clerk call the roll on items 1, 3, and 4.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. On item 2, then, Councilmember Goodman, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam President. Would Councilmember Gordon yield for a question?
Councilmember Gordon, you willing to answer a question?
I'm happy to discuss the
Okay.
issue.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have just one question to see if I can get comfortable with this or not, and that is, do we currently invest in fossil fuels in the city of Minneapolis?
Councilmember Gordon?
No, we don't. We had lengthy conversations with the finance department, and we don't have any investments right now in the fossil fuel extraction companies whatsoever.
So the purpose of this is just to say, yay, we don't do this?
And it's to clarify that we're not going to in the future, and it's to encourage others not to do so. This is very similar to what we did with South Africa many years ago, and also with Sudan more recently, where we made it our clear policy that we weren't going to invest in certain areas.
Okay, so thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Any further discussion then on item 2? Seeing none, I'm just going to speak, if I may. And I'm not going to be supporting this today, and I just want to make it clear why. And I appreciate everybody that's down here and the sentiments behind this resolution. But Councilmember Goodman's point is absolutely correct. The city of Minneapolis is prohibited by state law from investing in individual companies. We have no authority to invest in individual companies. And so essentially what this resolution does is, as Councilmember Gordon said, encourage other people not to invest in fossil fuel companies. And that's fine. But I have served on a pension board in my time on the city council. And one of the duties of people on pension boards is a fiduciary obligation to the people who are served, who have invested in those pensions. And that means that you are to keep in your mind and obligated to try and get the best returns for people who are vested in those pensions. We have city employees that are vested in existing pensions at the state of Minnesota, where these decisions will actually be made by the Minnesota State Board of Investment. This resolution is actually should be in front of them. But anyway, they make that decision in the light of looking at making sure that their obligation to obtain the best returns for their people that they represent on this pension board will be, they'll get the best returns for those retirees. So again, I appreciate the sentiment. I do want to make one correction too. I think in the resolution, I do believe as we look at, and I see where I put this here. Oh, in the on the second page of the resolution here in the book, it says, whereas the University of Minnesota's endowment funds are valued at over $3.2 billion, the 14 largest investment firms in Minneapolis control investments valued at over $247 million. I would stake my paycheck that's $247 billion, not $247 million. So, and the seven largest foundations in Minneapolis have endowments over $2.6 billion. So I would bet that number should be $247 billion. So if you could check on that too before this goes out, gets passed, I'd appreciate it. So I'm not going to be supporting this today because I think it gives a false impression that we have the authority to do something which we do not. Councilmember Goodman?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm also not going to be supporting this today, but the main reason is because I want to make change. I don't want to make a point. I think it's important for us to actually do something. We have like 1,000 vehicles in our fleet right now, every one of them burning fossil fuels. We are not moving towards any kind of electric vehicle. We have some that are maybe using some plug-in stations, but I think it's important for us to look in our own backyard first and figure out what we're doing before we tell other people what they should be doing. And so it comes from a position, I think, to the left, not to the right. We don't invest in fossil fuels now, thank God. I'm glad we didn't. If we did, I would vote to not invest in fossil fuels. But I think there's many more things we can do in our own backyard before we tell the university or the state what to do. So we have done some amazing environmental work here. Councilmember Glidden, Councilmember Gordon's work on the Clean Energy Partnership. I myself worked on the solar installation at the convention center and on fire stations, as has Councilmember Reich. I worked on a green roof when green roofs were something that no one was interested in and we were made fun of. So there's been a lot of great environmental work done here in this chamber, but ultimately it's about making change, not about making a point. And I maybe would have supported it if Councilmember Gordon hadn't said, it's just like telling people what to do in Sudan. That kind of turned me off. I'm not interested in telling people what to do in Sudan either. I'm hyper local, and I think it's important for us to focus on what we can do in our own backyard. So no disrespect for anyone who's here today. I think we could actually do something ourselves to help with this debate and instead of telling other people what to do.
Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be supporting the resolution, which I think is very clear in its text and what it is doing. I appreciate the work of the advocates who brought this forward and who are here today to support this. For most of my life, governments of all levels have taken no action to stop global warming, and that has to change. This is a huge year for global action on climate change, and we should all be doing everything we can to build momentum, whether it's marching in the streets, whether it is taking action that makes a point that the city of Minneapolis does not support investment in fossil fuels, that we need to continue to work together at every single level of community and government to protect the planet and to, even if it affects someone's bottom line. And that's what this year of global action on climate change is about. That's what this resolution is about. And I'm fully supportive.
Councilmember Gordon.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the discussion. I think it's important to realize that right now, our city employees don't have an alternative right now when their employment funds go into the state. Part of this is exactly to try to ask the state to look into this, just as the state themselves told their investment board to divest from Sudan after this city council in 2007 unanimously voted to do that. So if you were here in 2007, you supported divesting from Sudan. And I think it was a good idea. It sends that message. It sends that signal. If you recall what happened in South Africa for the longest time, nobody cared about apartheid. And then slowly a movement started, and pretty soon the entire eyes of the world were looking at it and saying, this is a problem. We need to do something about it. We're just rising up right now, I would say, on a groundswell of community support saying we need to do something about climate change. They've already identified enough fossil fuels in the ground to fry the planet. We don't need to be paying companies to go find more to maybe drive down the costs a little more so it looks like it's okay more to buy more gas and burn more fuel. In fact, I think that will help motivate the city to take more direct action, which I really look forward to working with all of you on to see how we can do that. We've done work on getting electric cars. Absolutely. Let's do more of that. Let's get more city work that can be done without driving around the city. I'm enthusiastically supportive of that. We heard in the testimony from a former city employee, and all she wanted was for her retirement option to include something so that she could say she doesn't want her money that was taken out of her paychecks when she worked for the city, investing in fossil fuel extraction companies, and she can't even get that now. The University of Minnesota, to their credit, has tried to carve out an alternative for their retirees so that they can have a fossil-free option. And that's what we're asking for in this resolution. Even if those companies can't divest fully, at least provide individuals that option so that they can think that they're using their little bit of money that they're pooling together to make a difference. Just imagine if we took the billions and billions of dollars that we're investing right now in fossil fuels and instead said, let's invest them in clean energy. We'd have a dramatic shift in what's going on here, and we should be asking everybody to do that who's making investments, whether we're individuals talking to our own retirement investors, or whether we're a government body trying to look at what's in the best interest. It might look like this is some national problem, and or maybe even international problem, and it probably is. Probably Florida and Arizona are going to suffer before Minnesota does in Minneapolis. But we are going to have repercussions here as well. We're going to have local repercussions as climate change happens. There's going to be health issues. There's going to be food security issues. And there's going to be other things if we don't act. And this is a small thing. I think somebody else at the hearing also said, yeah, it's symbolic. We understand that it's symbolic, but sometimes it's the small symbolic gestures that end up making the biggest difference.
Councilmember Cano, again, is having trouble with her computer. Councilmember Cano.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I can't log into speakerphone, but as one of the co-authors of this resolution, I think it's important to differentiate between making a point and being a leader. And so as the city of Minneapolis has been a leader on many fronts, I think this falls in line with that spirit and that culture of really helping to connect our resident voices to the future of sustainability and of who we are, not only as a city, but as a state and as a nation. We had the opportunity as a city council to meet somebody from the U.S. Navy who talked about how they are looking at climate change issues and how their prime real estate is the waters of the earth. You know, that's where they operate, that's where they navigate, that's where they are. And they have a lot of bases in California, and they're talking about losing those spaces and losing that real estate. And so when a major U.S. government entity like that is aggressively talking about this issue, I think it's very, it kind of puts our resolution in scope, and it's actually not that big of a step forward, but it is very, very symbolic and very important that we fall in line with those conversations. Winona LaDuke, a very well-known Indigenous activist and environmental justice advocate, talks about the era of extreme extraction. And so now more than ever, we see that we are squeezing the life out of the earth just to continue to live in an unsustainable manner and an oppressive relationship with the earth. And so it's no question, and it's not a coincidence that when we exploit the earth and we try to continue to extract from it, women are also going to be exploited. And so I'm talking about fracking now, and I'm talking about the man camps that have been set up in North and South Dakota, and how Indigenous women today from Minneapolis are being human trafficked up north to service the man camps in very unjust ways and ways that we need to stand up to and fight against. And so I hope that all of our colleagues can consider supporting this resolution. We've worked extremely hard with the community members who are here, who are advancing this dialogue, who are championing this voice, who are elevating it. I have kids who are 4 and 5, and I get really worried about their future. I get really, really worried about where they're going to be, what their life is going to be like. There was a recent article that was released by a scientist in California talking about how they only have 1 year of water left. And what does that mean for the crops that we grow and the food that we consume? And one of the activists in the room today said, the future is here. So all those movies that we watch and all those transition towns conversations that we've been having, it's here, it's happening. So it's up to us to take leadership. It's up to us to stand up. And if things need to be more significant, then help us make them more significant. And this resolution is one of the many steps we have to take in that direction.
Councilmember Frye.
Thank you, Madam President. I will be supporting this resolution here. That being said, I am supporting it because of the position. And as Councilmember Goodman stated, a position is only a position, and I think we do need real action. I was just having a conversation actually with my girlfriend last night who works for the Energy Foundation. She's a lobbyist for clean energy specifically. I bet you didn't know that those even existed, but they do. And she mentioned to me that, you know, this really is the issue of our generation in terms of social justice, and this is the issue probably of our generation in terms of people. She said, you know, this really is not an environmental issue at all. And that confused me. I said, why? And she said, well, this is really a human issue. You know, the first person that will die of climate change has already been born. And that scared the daylights out of me. So while this is a position that I agree with, I also agree with we do need a little bit more progressive action rather than all progressive talk. And I hope that we do move in that direction.
Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to note, I may have misspoke earlier. I did a little research here, and the Sudan resolution was actually passed in 2008, not 2007.
In 2000 and what?
8. Introduced by Hodges and Ostro. And I also wanted to give the council president some credit for her fine attention to detail. Indeed, I did a little checking, and you are correct, it's 247 billion. Maybe that can be considered just a technical amendment. We can clarify that since I said that, and I don't think we have to vote on it, but you were correct, and I apologize for that error.
Million, billion, you know.
Well, it was still, Accurate though, because it said over 247 million, and I think we'd all agree that 247 billion is over 247 million.
Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm an advocate and an organizer first, and so in a room full of advocates and organizers, I wanted to highlight how many council members just said they want to take more aggressive, further action that will really make a huge difference. And I hope that you call them now as soon as you leave this room to follow up with those meetings, to ask them to author the resolutions that they have committed to bring forward real change on climate change. Our city has taken significant change. We've adopted a climate action plan full of policies that are ready to be enacted. Some of them already have. Many council members here have authored those changes and supported them over the many years they've served. We have taken significant action on our transportation system and green building in a number of areas, but there is more work to be done. And so I think today is an exciting day where you have heard clear support from council members, whether they'll be voting yes or no on this particular resolution, a commitment to take further action after today.
Any further discussion then on health, environment, and community engagement, item number 2? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Nay.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Nay.
There are 11 ayes and 2 nays.
That item is approved. Next. Thank you all for joining us. Next, we have Intergovernmental Relations Report, and that committee was chaired by Councilmember Kano. This week, she's the vice chair of that committee.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just kind of letting folks celebrate a little bit. So the Intergovernmental Relations Report, we have 2 items for approval today. So number 1 is the Comprehensive Transportation Legislation, and it's a passage of a resolution supported dedicating state funding for multimodal transportation in city streets. Our second item is our federal aviation policy position, and that is to approve the City of Minneapolis's federal aviation position.
Councilmember Kano has moved the Intergovernmental Relations Report. Anyone want to discuss either of those 2 items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 3 items today for approval. The first item is directing the Department of Civil Rights to research and identify the best practices and processes used on the projects in Minneapolis and the region that have been most successful in meeting workforce and business inclusion goals, to report back to the Public Safety Committee on or before July 29, 2015, with recommendations regarding the improved use of best practices in Minneapolis. Second item is to authorize a contract with Hennepin Technical College in the amount of $94,000 for police cadet recruit training services. The third item is to authorize a contract with the Minnesota Department of Commerce to reimburse the police department for overtime costs in an amount up to $2,500 for participation on a fraud task force. And I will move all 3 items for approval.
Councilmember Yang has moved the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report. Anyone have any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Transportation and Public Works Report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee will be forwarding 12 items today for full council approval. Item 1 regards a street project with the listed addresses, and specifically it will be adjustments to pass resolution amending resolution 2015 R040 to delete 2nd Street North between 24th and 26th Avenue North from the streets to be improved of the project, and canceling proposed assessments to the properties on 2nd Street North between 24th and 26th, And that pavement will not be resurfaced, and direct staff to return to TPW committee with revised assessment values for 2nd Street North equal to the percentage of roadway that will be resurfaced. The project approval and assessment public hearing was continued to March 24th, 2015 by request of the council member of the area. Item 2 is approving the project layout and reconstruction project for 6th Avenue North, 5th Streets to the dead end of North Washington Avenue, and authorizing negotiation with private property owners to acquire and execute easements and additional right-of-way if necessary. Item 3 is the Innovative Graffiti Prevention Microgrant Contract with the Kingfield Neighborhood Association, and that's to extend that to September 30, 2015. Item 4 is a draft 2040 resource policy plan and approving comments related to the Met Council draft 2040 resource policy plan and directing the submittal of the comments to Metropolitan Council by the end of the 45-day comment period. And I know our water policies don't have a traditional TAC, and so staff had to do extra work on their own initiative, and so I appreciate that effort. Item 5 is public artwork on Nicollet Mall, approving city-owned artwork to be retained on Nicollet Mall as recommended by the Public Art Advisory Panel and the Minneapolis Arts Commission, and directing staff to determine the feasibility of relocating Great Blue Heron, Loon, and Sage Grouse Fountain to a location in the North Mississippi Regional Park and report back to issues involved with the potential relocation by June 30th, 2014. Following items we refer to the Ways and Means Committee. Item 6 is the 9th Street, 11th Street North, 12th Street North, 7th Street Avenue North street resurfacing project, and a series of actions to continue with that on schedule. Item 7 is 26th Avenue North Street renovation project, and that's a passage of resolutions to proceed with that and set a public hearing for April 21st, 2015. Item 8 is the 2015 Northern Lights Express membership fees, to pay those fees to continue our involvement with those discussions. Item 9 is the transfer station operation services, authorizing negotiation and execution of amendment to the contract with Waste Management Incorporated for transfer station operation to allow for 2 one-year extensions to the term of the contract. Item 10 is authorizing a second amendment to the agreement of the Skyway construction, financing, and management maintenance for easements for the proposed for the purpose of clarifying and memorializing operations and security processes of the Skyway link between 7th Street TAD Garage to the LaSalle Plaza. Item 11 is the Minnesota Clean Water Land grant, and it's to accept that grant for $399,425. And the last item is a series of low bids. All of them are low bids for operations of the department. With that, Madam President, I move all items.
Councilmember Reich has moved the Transportation and Public Works report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, I just really want to thank Councilmember Reich for looking at the possibility of relocating the statue, sculpture, and fountain, Great Blue Heron, Loon, and Sage Grouse, which is actually on the Nicollet Mall now, to North Mississippi. We had a lovely heron rookery at North Mississippi Regional Park that was destroyed by the tornado. And so I think this would be, if it works and it can, the fountain can be safe there, I think it would be a great addition. So I appreciate the work on that. We'll see how it goes. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Warsami. Aye. Goodman.
Aye.
Fry. Aye. Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Ways and Means report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam President. Ways and Means brings forward 7 items for your consideration today. First is a series of legal settlements. Item number 2 is the execution of a 2-year contract with the Domestic Abuse Project, providing 24-hour hotline phone services. Item number 3 is execution of a contract for the Creative City Challenge Art Competition Artist Award, and we're requesting an early signature by the mayor for that. This will be for an installation that will be at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Item number 4 is also at the Convention Center. This is for their Hall A concession stand remodeling project with a low bid from Messenger Construction Company. Item number 5 is increasing the contract with Sierra Nevada for Enterprise Resource Planning Program services. And audits. Number 6 is the execution of a contract with Backbone Consulting to provide information technology auditing services for the enterprise. excuse me, and item number 7 is a series of items related to the CenturyLink cable franchise application. These is not granting the application for the franchise. It is receiving the cable officer's report from the Ways and Means Committee and directing staff to engage in negotiations with CenturyLink regarding a cable franchise. Just happy to answer any questions, but like to move all 7 items for approval.
Councilmember Quincy has moved the Ways and Means report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Gordon. Excuse me, Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much. I just had a question, mostly about how we might, what's the most appropriate way for a council member to get more information and engaged in the cable discussions. I understand this is it's certainly something we don't want to discuss the terms of the contract here right now or anything that we're approaching it, but I know that it's come up at a couple committees that I don't serve on, and maybe you could just give a word of guidance to me about how I could get more engaged, or if the council president or Councilmember Quincy.
Councilmember Quincy, would you like to respond, Councilmember Gordon?
I'll be happy to. Thank you, Council President and Councilmember Gordon, for your question. I would advise you to speak to City Attorney's Office and Peter Ginder, or our consultant on this project, outside counsel, Mike Bradley. This is the process. I do need to remind my colleagues here that this is a quasi-judicial matter, so careful not to communicate outside of that, but that's the place to go for additional questions.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Goodman?
Thank you, Madam President. So given it's a quasi-judicial matter, any question I would have, I should just ask right now in public because it's quasi-judicial? Because I have a question about this, but am I supposed to now ask I have a question about the moving of jobs out of Minneapolis in Northeast Minneapolis to St. Paul, and we're aware of that. I'm just wondering how that fits into 100 jobs been moved already, another 100 about to be moved, and we're in the middle of negotiating this franchise. How does that play in?
Councilmember Goodman has a question. Perhaps Mr. Scarda. I'm sorry, Ms. Trammell. Ms. Trammell. I'm sorry, I saw Mr. Scarda there before. So.
Council President Johnson, Councilmember Goodman, and members of the committee, that question, whether it needed to be asked now or later, I can't answer for you right now because I don't have enough information. This has been a matter handled by Mr. Ginder solely. I haven't had any consultations with him, and he is out of the office now for the next week. But as far as whether that question should be answered here or outside, we can check that out, and next time this comes on, we would have that information prior to the meeting so that we could appropriately deal with it. But it is correct that this is quasi-judicial, and I just don't know enough about this project to answer accurately, so I think we should defer answering that question to either the next meeting, or if possible, we could answer it outside the meeting if we determine that's legally feasible. Does that help? Is that helpful, Councilmember Goodman?
Sure. I mean, I just want to know at what point does that issue become part of the conversation? I think saying it out loud in front of the media probably solved my problem.
All right. Then on the Ways and Means report, any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Zoning and Planning Committee report, and that committee is chaired by Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 4 items from Zoning and Planning. Item number 1 is passage of a resolution approving an easement vacation at Target Field Station. Item number 2 is adoption of the Holland Neighborhood Small Area Plan and to update our comprehensive plan subject to that small area plan. Item number 3 is approving the historic landmark designation of the Thomas Lowry Memorial. And item number 4 is approving the landmark designation of the Camden Park State Bank Building, which is at 705 42nd Avenue North. And I would move all 4 items.
Councilmember Bender has moved the Zoning and Planning report. Any discussion on those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Warsame.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the introduction and referral calendar. And the first is an ordinance introduction, and it's pursuant to notice. Councilmember Reich introduces the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to the zoning code on-premise signs, amending real estate sign provisions. Next item is an ordinance introduction pursuant to notice. Councilmember Reich introduces the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to streets and sidewalks, adding a new chapter 451 to be entitled Use of City-Owned Infrastructure, establishing a process and procedure for applicants to obtain permits to attach communications equipment to city-owned infrastructure. Next item is an ordinance introduction pursuant to notice. Councilmember Reich introduces the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to the zoning code, amending regulations for telecommunications towers, antennas, and base units. Pursuant to notice, Councilmember Reich introduces the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to the heritage preservation regulations, amending regulations for telecommunications towers, antennas, and base units. And Councilmember Quincy introduces, pursuant to notice, the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to cable communication franchises for first reading and referral to the Ways and Means Committee, amending Comcast franchise provisions in accordance with the franchise settlement agreement. And the last introduction, Councilmember Bender is introducing a motion, or is moving to introduce an ordinance amending the code relating to building code permit fees for first reading and referral to Community Development Services and Ways and Means Committee, amending the fee schedule and fee refunds relating to the director's fee schedules. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Quincy, Councilmember Quincy. We amended that. I'm looking at my other copy here. It was Councilmember Quincy introduces item 6 instead of Councilmember Bender. Any discussion on any of those ordinance introductions? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Next, we have under resolutions, establishing the early voting process. It's a passage of a resolution supporting legislation establishing an early voting process for voters in Minnesota. Second honorary resolution is, second is an honorary resolution, passage of a resolution recognizing World Down Syndrome Day. Third is an honorary resolution, passage declaring April 2015 as being 30 Days of Biking Month in the city of Minneapolis. And the fourth is the honorary resolution honoring Indigenous Mexican community and proclaiming Mexican New Year. And I'll defer to Councilmember Cano to pronounce that. Yay.
Right. Okay. So the proclaiming Mexica New Year. Yay, Akkad.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on those resolutions? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Under new business, we have a land sale resolution amendment, passage of a resolution amending another resolution authorizing sale of land through the vacant housing recycling program. It was passed February 27, 2015, and this corrects the legal description of the property. Also under new business, notice of intent, Councilmember Gordon gives notice of intent to introduce at the next meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to liquor and beer in general, amending regulations related to outdoor areas on licensed establishments. That notice is given. Councilmember Quincy gives notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to Minneapolis cable communication franchises, amending Appendix H by adding a new Chapter 2, granting a cable franchise to CenturyLink. That notice is given. Councilmember Gordon and Yang give notice of intent to introduce at the next meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to offenses miscellaneous in general, repealing a section lurking. That notice is given. And then on Councilmember Yang and Councilmember Gordon give notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 11, Chapter 213 of the Code relating to health and sanitation, repealing Section 213.30, spitting, depositing tobacco. So that notice is given. And on item 1, we have a resolution amendment, so we will need a vote on that. Any discussion on item 1? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Next item on our agenda is announcements. Any announcements this morning? Seeing no announcements, a motion to adjourn be in order. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Madam
We need to
President,
reconvene.
it's
It's on the agenda. Okay. Thank you. State of the city.